Hey guys. So, moment of truth. If I told you that I never had any fear before I quit my 9 to 5 to do my own thing, I would be lying. I was scared as FUCK. Like, I really was. And I've talked about my story before, and I'll attach a video of like why I quit and how I got to that point. But long story short, I had been at that job for 6 years. It was my first real job post college, meaning it was towards my degree, it was paying me more than I had ever made, and I just thought I was finally going to be living the American dream. And over time, over the years, like I was just so miserable there. I didn't like working in a lab. I didn't like the way I was treated by management. It was just a very toxic place for me. But I was so afraid to quit because I didn't want to downgrade my lifestyle. I already had an apartment, I had a car note. I was just very comfortable with the lifestyle that I had created, and I wasn't willing to downgrade. And again, reflecting back, I could have downgraded. Reflecting back, I should have just found another job. But I'm just explaining to you the headspace I was in back then in my 20s, right? As opposed to now. I'm older, more mature, yada, yada, yada. But, anyways, that was just what was going through my head back then. So I just would just, live day to day miserable, feeling trapped, whatever. But after a certain period of time, you just kind of get fed up, right? Like, it's just kind of like, F this job, F these bills. Like, I'm all the way done. And I had reached that point. So I had put in my 2 week notice on a whim. I really didn't have anything like lined up. I hadn't been putting in applications. I just quit. And you guys, I was so scared. Like, I was so scared. I was crying every night. Like, what am I going to do? I had just started my OnlyFans, but I wasn't making any real money on there. So I was just like, what am I going to do? I just bought a house and I didn't have anything saved. Like, everything that I had went into that house, the down payment. So I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was just freaking out. Like, I couldn't sleep. It was like I was excited to quit, but at the same time, I was very scared because I was like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to pay these bills? So I started putting in applications, but like no one was calling me back. But I had to put on this facade at work because I had put in my 2 week notice. Like, everything was kosher, everything was just going to work out the way everything was just going to be great. I had to just wear this mask and not let them see me sweat because I noticed what they were looking for. Like, I knew management, because the reason why I ended up quitting was because they wrote me up. Like, so it was an event that took place, and I put in my 2 week notice before I could even sign the write up. Okay, so I didn't want them to know that I was panicking. I just really wanted to just carry it like I'm good. Like, fuck this job, I don't need y'all. But deep down inside, I was very, very scared. And so I was putting in applications. I was putting in so many every night when I got home from work, and I was just getting more and more scared. And so I finally was able to get a temp job that was going to start me literally the Monday following the Friday of my last day. So it worked out, but it was a temporary job. And, it was going to be working overnight as opposed to days. Like, I was used to working days. Now I'm working overnight. Just trying to stay awake, especially for your first week or so, was just tough, right? But anyways, you guys, I was a hot mess. I was drinking a lot. Like, it was just a lot going on. And when I started the temp job, you know, I felt okay. I wasn't making close to what I was making at my job that I quit, but it was enough to manage and finagle, right? And then I decided to just take my OnlyFans really seriously. I decided to stop being afraid because I knew this was all during COVID, by the way. I knew that women were making a shit ton of money on OnlyFans. I just didn't know how, right? So I started researching, I started watching YouTube videos, I started reaching out to other OnlyFans creators to try to figure out, like, can you help me? Like, what is the magic sauce? Like, what do I do? And I stumbled across an OnlyFans coach. And you guys, I only had 200, her price for her monthly coaching was $200. You guys, I only had $200 left on my credit card, and before my credit card was maxed out. And I was like, okay, Do I use this 200 to pay for coaching so I can be taught how to run a successful OnlyFans? Or do I pay my light bill with it, right? Like I was literally going back and forth, back and forth. And so my light bill was already behind. Just so we know, just so we're clear, my light bill was already behind, but because it was COVID, they weren't cutting people off. So I was like, all right, let me give her the $200. I like prayed to the Lord. I was like, please let this work. Like, please, please, please let this work. Paid for the coaching. You guys, within 2 weeks, I started making money on my OnlyFans just by doing everything she told me to do. And every month thereafter, I made more and more and more. After month 3, I replaced my income of the 9 to 5 that I quit. And it literally just went up from there. And I was doing every single thing that she said to do. She was telling us how to post on socials, how to sell content, how to caption content, how to find other girls to network with. Like, she really put me on game. And I am so glad that I spent the last $200 I had on my credit card to invest in myself and into the business. And I have not looked back since. I say all of this to say that at the end of the day, you have to, 1, understand that things always work out. They always work out. 2, you have to believe in yourself. If I didn't believe that I would be capable of making a whole bunch of money like I've seen all these other OnlyFans models do, then I would have never trusted myself to make the money by giving the $200, my last $200, to this woman to teach me how to make money on OnlyFans. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if I had this mindset of, I don't know if I can do this, which I did. Like, when I first quit my job, I was freaking out. I was really freaking out. But I had already started making less money by, getting that temp job. And I was like, this isn't it, because I'm not trying to stay up overnight. Like, so you know what I'm saying? I was working weekends again. I wasn't working weekends at my 9 to 5. Like, I was already not really feeling this temporary job, right? I was like, this isn't it. The 9 to 5 isn't it either, but this really isn't it, right? And so I really felt like, okay, at this point, I need to just go all in. I need to bet on myself. And I did. And I do not regret spending literally my last $200 before my credit card was maxed out. And that was the only credit card I had. Okay, so you have to get into the mindset of knowing that you're going to make it work. You are going to make something shake. If you look at your life and everything that has happened in your life, if you really sit there and reflect, you have accomplished a lot of things. You may not be where you want to be, right? We always want more. But if you look at everything that you have done, you have always gotten yourself out of a situation, right? You have maintained a car, even if it's not the car of your dreams. You have been able to maintain a car to get you from point A to point B. You have been able to pay your car note so that you can get from point A to point B. You have landed a job, right? It may not be the job that you like. It may be the most toxic job ever, but you put in an application for this job. You went in for an interview and you got the job, correct? And you have been able to keep that job for however long you've been there. True or false? Okay, so therefore, you have already proven to yourself that you are capable of holding your own. Do you pay your rent or a portion of your rent if you have roommates? Do you make sure that you eat? Even if you're only eating ramen noodles, you still make sure that you eat, right? You don't go to bed hungry now, do you? No, you don't. Do you pay your phone bill every month? Okay, because if you didn't, how are you watching this video? The point I'm making is you are a lot more capable than you think. But a lot of times we'll try to convince ourselves that everyone else can do this, but I can't. But you have no reason to think that, because you have been able to pull yourself through a lot of very, very, very tight situations. And I'm sure there are plenty of times in your past where you didn't think you were going to be able to do a certain thing, or you thought your whole world was going to crumble, but yet you still managed to see it through. You still managed to survive. True or false? True or false? Because life be lifing, right? Life be fucking lifing. But yet you still manage to get out of that situation by the grace of God. Okay? So I'm telling you this. Start betting on yourself. start believing in yourself. As long as you show up every single day, it's going to work no matter what it is that you're trying to do. It may take time. It may not be as quickly as you want it to be, but it will always work out. Okay. If I was too afraid to spend that $200, who knows where I would be today. I probably would have been at another job, because that temporary job that I had, they actually laid me off 30 days later. So luckily, I moved when God told me to move. I had been wanting to quit that 9 to 5, but I wasn't listening. I was coming up with a whole bunch of excuses as to why I couldn't quit. What about my apartment? What about my car? What about my student loans? How am I going to eat? How am I going to maintain this lifestyle that I've created? How am I going to pay for this house that I just bought? I was coming up with all of these excuses, and I was being very disobedient to the fact that God was telling me to quit, right? He was telling me to let it go. And I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I found content creation, because it led me to this. Now I make content based off of weight loss, fitness, and motivation and inspiration. So I'm saying all of this to say, believe in yourself. You have this. You can do so many things, but you are the one that's limiting your success, because you're constantly reminding yourself that you can't do something when in fact you can. Okay, so stop living in fear. Stop thinking that you can't accomplish great things, because you can, and you have proven it to yourself already. So now it's time to really hone in on what it is that you want to do with your life. If you hate your 9 to 5, if you cannot see yourself working there for another 30 years, now is the time to figure out what it is that you want to do so you can progress. Okay, so that you can get out of that toxic environment and do what you actually really want to do. And social media has made it like, social media has literally made it to where you can make money doing anything that your heart desires. So you got this. Bet on yourself. You can do it. All right.